Hi, I'm Edro,
And I'm Yan Ping.
and this is Teo-logy podcast. So, to give you quick context, I'm from an organization called Fellowship of Evangelical Students, or in short FES, where we focus on discipling students in the universities and in their Christian fellowships. And so, about April 2023, my boss approached me and said that the staff from Johor is going to come up to take a new role and asked me to consider whether I would come to Johor. Which segue to our today's episode where why we chose Johor. So why Johor? Okay. So Yanping, what do you feel at first when you heard about this proposal?
Yeah, I think it was interesting for me because that's when I realized how differently we react to news. So Edro came home and he told me like, oh, you know, my boss said this. What do you think we should do? And I said, pray lor. And then Edro was like, huh, pray lor? Like just that, like how about all the other things that we should be considering? And for me was, yeah, we do need to consider those. And to be honest, way after that, then only I started stressing out about all those things. But my first thought was, we'll pray about it and we'll see whether it's a decision to be made. And I think one thing that I realized through that episode was realizing that actually I am someone who is quite a rolling stone. So I've moved around quite a bit, or even if I didn't move, I moved communities. Since uni days, when I had to study overseas, and then coming back, I didn't have a lot of my uni friends back home with me. And then with getting married was changing church. So thinking about it, I feel like I've changed communities maybe every 3 to 4 years, and that has been sort of what I'm used to already. So if you tell me like, oh, let's move again, then I'm like, okay, let's see whether it's time to move, and okay, I'll move, that kind of mindset.
Yeah, and for me on the other hand, it was like, first of all, it was my boss that asked me, and I had to be the one that makes the decision, yet my wife was the more chill one. And so it was like an error 404. I couldn't process it at the moment. And I'm the kind of character that when I stick to a place, I generally don't move at all. So I was in from Malacca my whole life, 17 years. Then when I was 18, I remained in KL, same church, same community, my uni friends, all the way up till just recently lah.
Yeah. And I realized that when he will sometimes say like, oh, I haven't seen my uni friends for a long time. Then I'll be like, but you just saw them last month. And then he will say, yeah, last month is a long time.
I mean, that was I guess the perception time frame of distance and whatnot lah, yeah.
Yeah, but it speaks of the value that he has always had his community with him, or at least for a very long period of time. Whereas for me, I see my uni friends maybe once a year or a couple of years. Then I'll meet up with them and I'll catch up with them.
Yeah, and so more context, right? I am someone that usually don't engage in this kind of shifting house and shifting state kind of thing. In fact, it wasn't under the impression that I would have been sent down so soon. Because I joined my organization in 2022 August, and then 2023 April was asked to consider. I mean, there was ample of time to mentally prepare and all that, but it was that thought process. It did catch me off guard for a while. Yeah. So yeah.
So how did we go about making the decision?
So naturally, latching on to what Yanping said earlier, to pray, that's what we did. In that process of praying, we did ask God to send us some signs. And by the way, we're not going to share every single sign. Let's just say God has met every sign in a way that we were blown away. But I'm just going to share you a few. Among one of the first things that I asked, that I needed the peace to go was for my pastors to release me, my church, to bless me. May not be important for other Christians, but for me it was important because ever since I joined that church, the pastors has been discipling me, sowing a lot into me, and growing me, giving me multiple opportunities. And of course, that came with the guilt lah, right? I've been joyfully serving in that church. I've had my rough seasons, my good seasons, all within that space.
But what was this guilt? Why did you feel guilty for leaving?
I think cause I was serving in multiple contexts, and they have it was the mindset that they invested in me, and in some sense, if I go to Johor, there goes their return of investment lah. If they use investment terms lah.
Yep.
So I met up with the pastors, and in all my guilt, I'll just end with this. My pastor said this one line, right? He says, "Adriel, it all matters whether God is calling you. And if God is calling you, then please go, and don't go for short term. Stay there for 10 years. Raise your child there. Remember this, God's kingdom is bigger than Victory Church." And that was the name of the church I was in. And I was so humbled, holding my tears, because I was like, wow, it was such a liberating kind of statement to tell me. And so that was one of the big signs. And with that, just to give you a bit more context, I was like, wait, I thought that was going to be a very big, major, heavy sign. And I was like, God, can you give me another sign? Because this happened too quick, too fast, too easy. Out of the multiple signs, right, the one funny sign I want to share with you is that I was cleaning my house, and lo and behold, I found a covenant card that I wrote to myself in 2015. I was in this camp Camerons, and we were in Camerons, and I had to write this promise. And on that card it says, "Lord, with a clear conscience, a heart that loves you, and a clear conscience, a heart that loves you, and a clear mind," or something like that. "Send me wherever you want me to go." I found a card, I put down, I said, "God, another sign." I was quite stubborn, worse than Gideon, who asked for only 3 signs. Yeah, what were you?
Yeah, so Edro asked for further signs, but what I remember was at the start when we sat down, I remember the church sign, and we specified 2 other signs which really concerned me, because second sign was about the house, because we were planning, that we'll root in KL for the longest time, and we were already quite sure that we would be there. So we actually did buy a house, and the thought was, if we move, we'll probably have to find another place in Johor, and I'm not sure how we will manage the finances of servicing a loan in KL and then down in Johor. So sign number 2 that we prayed to God, if you really want us to go, you need to somehow settle the house issue. What we thought was, maybe somehow find a way for us to sell off the house in KL so that we don't have that financial burden. Third one was also a financial kind of concern, which is me. He is going there, he has his job there, but I don't know what I'm going to do in Johor. So the prayer was, God, let me have a job in Johor, or open some door somewhere. So those were the 3 main signs, and then of course after that, Edro asked for a lot more. But what I remember after praying for those 3, and then the first one coming through, was around that time we were actually preparing for a CF camp. And we were sharing on this passage in the Bible, John 6, where a lot of people would know it's Jesus feeding the 5,000. So Jesus really multiplied the food and gave it to 5,000 from just 5 loaves and 2 fish. But what happened after that passage, as we were reading, was that Jesus retreated to a quiet place, and people started looking for him, right? And when they found him, it says that they were like, "Oh, Rabbi, here you are." And Jesus said to them, "I tell you truly, you are looking for me not because you saw the signs, the sign of him multiplying the 5,000, but because you ate and had your fill." And Jesus said, "I tell you the truth, do not look for the food that spoils or perishes, but the one that lasts to eternal life." I'm paraphrasing, but you can go and look at your own Bible in John 6. And that really spoke to me, because I realized that a lot of our signs were financial stability kind of signs, like, God, what about my job? How are we going to pay the bills? And if you can fulfill all these, then that will be for us a yes. But reading that passage made me realize that, to answer God's call to serve Him, does God have to fulfill these kind of, eat your loaves and have your fill?
Yeah, and He owes us nothing, by the way.
Yeah. And He definitely can, provide all these things for us, but it shouldn't be a prerequisite for us saying yes to serving Him. Whereas saying yes to serving Him should be more of, do we really think this is where God wants us to go? And do we see the need to serve in this area? And if the answer for that is yes, then my take was we should say yes first, and whether or not God blesses us with all the other stuff, that's up to Him really.
Yeah, and so in July we gave the yes to our to my boss, and that was the decision that we decided. We decided to obey God and come down to Johor. Yeah.
So that was our decision making process, right? What happened after that?
Yeah. So this is where it's just wow. So when we said yes, then I think within that month, I think 2 weeks after that, we decided to take leave to go down to Johor, stay there for 5 days,
Check out the place.
Yeah, do a prayer drive. Go to all the universities and just pray over the universities, right? And say, Lord, Your will be done and all that. And then at that time, our marriage counselors, premarital counselors, messaged us and say, hey, since you're in Johor, why not meet this bunch of people? Yeah, and then behold, we met these 2 doctors, and the next day, it was so random, so last minute, but they were so kind to just give their time to us, and we had multiple connections before then on how we knew them also. At the end of the conversation, one of them says, Adriel, if you're coming to Johor, I have a second house, you stay there. And so I asked, that'd be great. Thank you for offering. How much is the rent? And he said, no, you come and you stay. And
I remember he said, oh, okay, let me rephrase that. How much love gift are you willing to accept?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm not gonna stay for free. And he says, Adriel, no, you come and you stay. And he left. And Yan and I entered our cars at the time, and we were just dumbfounded. We were shocked, very, very humbled. On my end, I felt like a very Asian God saying, "See some more, see some more." What? I probably obviously God didn't say that. I'm just living in that moment. I felt feeling that way. And God, in our obedience, I'm not saying you obey and then good things happen. That's not the idea, but rather, God was actually ahead of us at every step of the way. Very faithful. The way He was saying, "I'd rather see you didn't. I already thought of this." And I'm just blown away. Even up to now, sharing the story, I want to give you a house. Yeah, anything you want to add on that? Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, we didn't know what the house was, so we thought maybe, it'll be like some investment property, some small condo, whatever. But when we came, it was, so it's the doctor's old family house, which is a very homely place. It's where we are now, and we're doing our podcasting in one of the small rooms. And when we came here, and I remember on the wall, so this is also very common for a lot of Christian families, right? They'll put on the wall, as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. Yeah, but for me, that was, I'll just take it as a consolation, because fun fact, when we got married and we did our wedding rings, we decided that, we won't put our names on the wedding ring. Most people put like Adrian and Yanping, right? But we thought about, what we wanted to build our marriage on, and we wanted to build our marriage on living a household for God. So we actually put that Joshua, what's the verse?
Joshua 25.
Yeah,
or something like.
As for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. So we put the verse there on our wedding
Put
rings.
a correction on the screen.
Yeah, and it was hanging there, and to me it wasn't a sign, but it was an assurance that
cherry on top.
Yeah, it was nice to come into a house and feel very at home and at peace in this place.
Yeah.
So here we are. We have moved in. God has been very good, and a lot of people have just paved the way for us. Even before we came, a lot of different people just contacted us, like students saying like, "Oh, I used to study here. Let me connect you with this person, that person." We have been here for a little while, and how has it been so far?
Yeah, so few things I like to point out. I think when I ask fellow Johorians back in KL and Selangor on what's there to do in Johor, what's there to eat, all of them say there's nothing, don't bother going here, there's nothing to eat, the bak kut teh is not the real bak kut teh, and all that kind of things.
The one time it tastes different.
Yeah, but since you came down here, we've been enjoying the food. I mean, of course, if you want to compare to the best of the best, maybe we are simple people, maybe. We've been visiting the malls, visiting the parks. It's been good. I find the experience quite different. Yeah, I think the other one that I see is when we've been going a lot, visiting a lot of churches, by the way, in these past 2 weeks. And obviously we do not know the full context, and there's much more we can learn. But as far as we are conversing with the church leaders around, is somehow they know that they have been called to remain in Johor when the pasture seems to be greener elsewhere. And that level of faithfulness, I think, is something that I really admire throughout the different denominations and different churches. Seriously, yeah. We visited Anglican churches, charismatic churches. Next week we're going to Presbyterian churches. Next week we're going to a Methodist church. Yes, yeah. So that's what we're observing so far. Yeah, what about you?
What I like about Johor?
How's it been so far for you?
Oh, well, I like Johor, or rather, what I've seen so far. I think one thing I enjoyed going across different churches was just seeing how the body of Christ is the same everywhere, even though it might be different personalities or different, expressed in different ways. So I remember one church where it was very vibrant, people are very friendly, and the lady was like but going across a few chairs just to say hi to us and then introduce us to the person next to us so that we will have a conversation. So that kind of really friendly type. We went to a quieter church where we ended up sitting with an elderly couple, and they were very chill. They weren't like hi all that, but they just said like, oh yeah, we thought usually we sit with our senior citizen group, but we thought today we'll just sit in an empty table and see who comes along that we can talk to, and then it ended up to be us. So something that I really felt was the warmth in the Christian community expressed in different ways, but it's the same warmth and the same love of Christ. Yeah. Other things I like about Johor is the heart reset, I feel. Because our life in KL was very established and very busy. We had a lot of community. I was doing a lot of tuition, and then now it's just like chill for the time being until things pick back up. But I really enjoy that free time of relaxing and just settling in.
Yeah, our schedule was like every day, like at least for me, there's someone to meet or someone that needs to see me and all that. It's much way lesser now. Yeah. One more thing though, at least our experience from KL to Johor is there's no more very little traffic lights and very little, at least where we're at, and very little
traffic
jams, very little tolls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can get along without having to go through tolls most of the time. Yeah.
Although there is one thing though, we experienced from our 2-week observation, the drivers are more rougher, will you say?
And they like to use their horn more.
If they want to use more than their horn, they'll wind down and scream at you. We didn't kena this.
Yeah.
We observe. Maybe people were hungry during Ramadan, I'm not sure.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, interesting.
So, Yanping, what are your hopes then as we come to a close for this episode for us coming down to Johor?
I think it might be a bit different for me compared to you because you have a job that is rooted in Johor. I'm still keeping my job in KL, right? So I don't really have so much connection with Johor. But I do hope to get to know the landscape a lot more. I feel like before the decision to move, I barely knew things about Johor, and I barely knew news. And when we came down, we're like, okay, let's find out what's the news. The Johor Sultan just became Agong, so we're like, whoa, and then get to know the Sultan background and all the developments, the RTS, what's the CIPQ, figuring all those things out. I think that's one of my hopes, to just get to know Johor landscape more. Second, maybe might be a bit early because I need to do my homework, but one thing that we have heard quite a bit is the state drain for Johor. So Johor is right next to the causeway for Singapore, and young people tend to cross over for job opportunities. If not, then they go up to KL, right? So a lot of the churches that we talk a lot about this. Oh yeah, the young people are leaving, and that makes me feel a bit sad also from an economic point of view. How do you develop a state when young people are just leaving? So my hope for that would be to see Johor develop economically, to become a place where young people do want to stay and do want to continue developing this place.
And I think for me, because of the nature of my job, is to be more in tune. My hope for Johor and my time in Johor is to be more in tune with the spiritual landscape of things, to see an urgency for the gospel in this state. And so that should be it. So I guess that's it for now.
This is Teo-logy Podcast.
Till next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.